Now, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to our next session. Honey Irani, Farhan Akhtar, Shibani Dandekar, Shantanu Chaudhuri, along with Stutee Ghosh, to give you a little perspective. Honey Irani, born to the Parsi family, was a child actor right from the age of 2.5 years, and she's acted in close to about 70 films, also written plenty of stories and screenplays for her hit films like Lamhe, Aina, Dar, and plenty more. She has written and also directed the film Arman. Honey Irani is the proud mother of the very talented Zoya and Farhan Akhtar. Joining her on stage, a personality who needs no introduction, of course. We have actor, director, writer, Farhan Akhtar, who's going to be taking stage. We also have singer, actress, host, model, the incredibly talented Shibani Dandekar, who is here as well. Joining them will be Shantanu Chaudhuri, who is a books editor, publisher, writer, and critic, moderating this discussion. And driving the conversation will be Stutee Ghosh, award-winning RJ film critic. She hosts a show called the Superwomania Show on Fever 104 FM, programming head of Fever in Mumbai as well. Ladies and gentlemen, give them a big roaring round of applause as they take stage for the Bangalore Literature Festival.
Good morning, everybody, and I won't be long over here because the people who matter, Ani ma'am, Farhan, Shibani, we are here for the launch of Ani ma'am's books for children. Very, very happy that this has come through. I remember talking to you sometime last December when we began conversation, and in a year's time, the book has come out. I think it's come out very well. We'll just start with the formal sort of holding up the book, all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Honey ma'am. Thank you, Farhan, for being here, Shibani, and Stutee for doing the conversation. It's a privilege publishing this, and please, the books are available at the bookstore here, and Honey ma'am will be very, very happy to sign the books for all of you. Thank you so much.
Hello, good morning. I need more energy. Look at the number of people who've turned up. Make your voices count. That's what we want to hear. So, of course, this, I can truly say I'm here with guests who don't need an introduction. Farhan Akhtar, Shibani Dandekar.
Hi, morning, everyone. Thank you for having me.
And the lady of the moment, Honey Irani. Ahmad, you can have the mic. Are you nervous?
Very.
How is it possible? You've written some amazing films. We launched your book here. Everyone's turned up to see you. How can you be nervous?
Yeah, because when you write a film, you're not there. People are not there to see you. They are going to see the film. So now when everybody's looking at me, it's making me very nervous.
No, we're looking at you and we want to listen to you, and we want to start with the birthing of this book. So tell us what made you write it?
Actually, my granddaughters did. I wrote it for them because whenever Farhan and they were busy, so they used to come and sleep in my bed. So I had to narrate a story for them, and they would ask me weird ones, tell us a story about this one and that one.
Yeah.
You had to make it up. So I thought it would be a good thing to write something like this, and then it would also help them to start reading. And I think children should form into the habit of reading, which is, I feel, is getting out of fashion nowadays.
Super. So Farhan, coming to you, you're here in the capacity of one of the first people to hear her stories. As a kid, like she says, you were...
No, I didn't hear it as a kid. I heard it when she wrote it for my grandkids, because we never asked her to write stories first. It's true. I mean, a lot of Akira's time and Shakya's time was spent with their grandmother when they were growing up. The result of that is this, and the books are amazing. I hope all of you all enjoy reading them.
And when Farhan was small, he used to make up his own stories. So I didn't have to
But
really
it's all in the
it.
genes, so we get
Yes.
that. Shivani, did you get a chance to listen to her stories first, and would she spin some interesting ones for you?
I mean, I have to say, this family is filled with incredible stories. They can talk for hours and hours and hours, and they have so many incredible stories to tell. And it's not surprising that, you know, they write films and now they're writing books. So this doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, it seemed like a very natural step. And she's such a great grandmother, and
Yeah.
and I've heard through Shakya and I've heard through Shakya and Akira that she's, you know, been telling them stories when they were younger, and they still talk about them even now, and they're 16 and 22, the girls are now. So the fact that they still remember these stories and that they resonate with them so much as a part of their childhood is something really incredible. And the fact that they now have these children's books that have their names on them is such a great thing for them for the rest of their lives and to show their kids.
I know you get the best grandmother award. You have your
Please give it to
grandchildren's
me.
name
Yes,
on books.
yes, thank you.
So, you know, so now we want to understand this process a little because you're being very modest. You've written some great films. You've told me how writing was something that helped you express. It was closest to your heart. How was it writing for kids? Something that was this personal.
To be very honest, I think somewhere down the line, like you know that I started working at the age of 2.5. So I never had that chance of being a real, you know, like enjoying as a childhood, you know, going out with friends, doing certain things which, you know,
Yeah,
children would
yeah.
love to do, play this, that, and the other. Going to school was also one of them. I could never do that. So I guess that was one of the reasons that I used to make up my own stories, and even when I was a kid.
Even when you
Yeah.
did you have people tell you stories then? Was
Yeah,
that
yeah. My actors, co-actors would do that. Meena Kumari would do that. Rajinder Kumar would. So they used to do that. So that I guess must have somewhere.
So that seed was always there. But okay, tell us a little about the first thing that you ever wrote and who was the audience and how was it received?
First thing I ever wrote was a short story, which was somewhere in 74, 75. And I mean, I never showed it to anybody because I was very embarrassed about my writing, my spelling mistakes, my grammar. So I used to always hide it. And unfortunately, or rather fortunately, one day Javed Saab, we were married then,
Yeah.
and he came across that. And when he read it, he says, honey, you know something that you have talent. You can write, so please carry on. So I just thought that, you know, he was just being very kind. And then after that, I never paid attention. But then later on, I kind of started developing that, you know, writing down my thoughts or whatever comes into my mind and stuff like that. And that's how it started.
With your films, with your screenwriting, films like Lamhe, Aina, Kya Kehna, you've touched upon such different themes.
Thank you so much.
See, we're fans of, you know, they were ahead of their times. Older man, younger woman, unwed mother, two sisters, not in the typical Bollywood way of Didi, Aap ye or Aap ye. And then to write for kids, how different is it? And I want to connect it to your childhood since you said you started working since you were 2.5, and you know your childhood was spent in film sets.
Yeah, on the
Somewhere were you
yeah.
were you living vicariously through these stories? Was that innocence?
I would say that, definitely. I would say that. Because even though we were trying to, my parents wanted me to study, we were sent to different schools. We would change 2 or 3 schools in a year because no school would have us
Yeah.
because we are, you know, all the time absent. So the education part of it was never there. So we used to have private tutors who would come to teach us, but then you know how it is.
Yeah,
Like kids
yeah.
you want to play and you have that much time. So again, we didn't pay much attention to that. But that is definitely one regret I have. That
That's one regret, the formal education bit
yes,
that you.
yes.
And was that something you ensured with
Right, yes.
Farhan?
Yes, yes,
that
and
you have
Zoya.
to sit and
Yes,
study
that
and.
they should, yeah, yeah.
Farhan, how was it? I mean, you know, like Shibani was saying, this is a family that loves telling stories. You know, people love that. growing up, you must have realized your mother had this talent with the films that she was writing. How much did she influence you?
Um, Tremendously. I mean, both Zoya and I are absolutely, who we are is because of the environment that we grew up in. And storytelling, reading, discussion, debate was a huge part of the house. And everything was kind of spoken about. We were not really treated at that point, I mean, as when I think back now, not really treated as kids. You know, we were like treated as, I mean, if we had something to discuss, it wouldn't be like, oh, it's too mature for you, so let's not talk about it. There would be time spent in discussing anything that was on our minds. And that also encouraged curiosity, I think, which is a big thing in kids, to remain curious, to want to learn more, to want to, I mean, however you do it. And that was a huge part of the house, of the household and of the setup. With mom, I mean, she used to write a lot. And as she said, I mean, a lot of it was hidden from us for the longest time. It really was when she started working as an assistant director, you know, and I saw a very different side of her in jeans, the denim shirts, running around screaming at crews, asking them to keep quiet. We're like, oh my God, she doesn't do this only at home.
Yeah. Oh.
So, and that's when her friends started coming over, you know, and then they discussed scripts and they discussed writing, and then she got into like writing with Mr. Yash Chopra as well.
Yeah.
You know, so all that happened around about the same time, and that's really actually when I knew. I mean, up until that point, I must admit, you know, I did feel that dad was the writer in the house because I didn't know that mom was writing at all. You know, so that Zoya and me learned about, at least I did. I can't speak for Zoya, but I learned it a little bit later.
And what do you now? How involved are you in films, Farhan's and Zoya's, and what they're writing? Do you kind of say, send me the script, I want to, you know?
No, but we do discuss. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes I read them, they read my script. So that's a very natural. I think that's very healthy also.
Of course, and that
You have your own point of view, they have their own point of view, and now it's naturally the younger generation. So I get to learn a lot from them. Okay, no, you shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
You don't have to repeat this. You know, it's always a process of learning, and I have great fun doing that.
You know, so I take it all those who are here, of course, love Haniji, Shivani, Farhan. You're also lovers of books and stories. And invariably, it happens to me, you listen to somebody talk about the process of writing, of publishing their book, and you feel, I also have a story. And someday I want to get it published too. And I think what's really empowering is how you spoke about the fact that you were not great with writing. You were scared of correct grammar and language and writing. But the power of storytelling, you knew you were pregnant with a story idea that you wanted to
Yes, so. Yeah.
give birth to.
Yeah, yeah.
So where did that confidence come from? Because I know a lot of people probably feel inhibited with that, you know, will people read? Can I really put pen to paper?
That's one confidence that was given to me by Pamela Chopra and Yash Chopra. Totally. That, you know, you're really good at it. Just write. Go on writing. And they were the first people to take Aina and Dar and Lamhe. So it just kind of gave me a lot of confidence.
And now you want to reach out to a whole different age group with these books. What's the thought behind that? Is there something you want to tell them? Because you also spoke about how you're not very happy that young kids don't read, and we want to change that. You know, speak to me a little about that.
See, this is also a little bit about environment, the kind of world we are living in. The change should start from us, I feel. So if everyone decides to do a little bit of their own, it'll help a lot.
Yeah.
So it's basically on that. And I just feel that most of the time I see children are always on their
Mobile phones or
mobile
some other
phones
device.
or
Yeah.
iPads or whatever you call
Yeah.
it, playing games. I mean, forget the children, I hardly see any elders reading also. I don't. It's very, very rarely that you come across somebody, even on a flight, okay, he's reading something. They're mostly on their iPads. So I just feel that books are very important. And everyone should be in that habit of reading. I mean, I shouldn't be saying this, there's a lot of well-read people sitting right in front of me, but that's what I feel.
No, of course, more books should be written and more books should be read. But these in particular, is there a sequel in the making? Are you thinking of other ideas already? Are we
I'll
going
have
to meet
my
you next year
grandchildren
with the
first.
launch of
Meet them again and discuss it.
But have your what's your grandchildren's reactions been to this?
They loved it. They really loved it, and they're very excited. I wish they were here, unfortunately, but they're not.
With when I mentioned films like Lamhe and Aina, we had everybody clapping because somewhere everybody acknowledges how these, there might be a lot of resistance when they came out initially, but they eventually went on to become cult films. These ideas were way ahead of their times, and we hadn't seen characters or women written with this nuance where you were not completely black or white, vamp or goddess, but you had shades. You might be sisters, but it was okay to hate each other and compete in love, as they say. Were these? How did you get inspiration to write these? And since you were in that setup since a young kid, since you were a child, uh, and you did not conform. It was in so many ways you breaking out, breaking free from those set patterns.
See, now I'll tell you something that from where I come, at my time when I was working in films, female actresses had very strong roles. There was Nargis, there was Meena Kumari,
Yeah.
Madhubala. They had very good roles. Then somewhere down the line, between 60s and 70s, the male just took over. So it was just like they were left with very little bit to do.
Yeah.
Come do a dance, do an item number, go this romance, this, that, and that kind of, I used to always wonder why. So I always made it a point that my heroine should do something in the film.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
has to
yeah.
be strong. She has to have brains.
An agency. Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons. And I would love to touch subjects which nobody else does. So I tried doing that.
Of course, this gives me a segue to my next question. And I remember having this discussion with filmmakers who sometimes say we don't want, particularly women filmmakers, who say why should our gender prefix what we do? Female author, female filmmaker. And we have this discussion about the male gaze, the female gaze. And there's a clear difference. The way women write characters for female characters is very different from how a man visualizes it. Farhan, I'll first get you into this conversation. Can you sense that difference when a woman is writing a story about female characters? Do you think they're much more full-bodied and have more agency than otherwise?
The majority of the work would reflect that. But there are enough writers and enough directors, both female and male, who are empathetic enough, who are understanding enough, and who will take the time to really, really maybe speak to people vis-a-vis the kind of characters that they're creating for a film, to create multi-dimensional, characters.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, if you see Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, that's written by two women, you'd think that it's a completely boy film. Must have been guys who wrote that script. So it's really not like that. I feel like, for example, like Sanjay Leela Bansali writes strong women characters. I loved Gangubai. I loved what he did with it. And he really, really kind of made a very wholesome, real character. So that happens, maybe not as often as we'd like, but it does happen, and you're seeing it happen more and more often. I think the emphasis on creating believable stories, creating stories that people can relate to, not only aspire to be, is a huge part of content consumption today. That's forcing writers and forcing directors and forcing producers to really, really kind of dig deep and create good characters.
It's interesting you took the example of Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. Brilliant movie, but it's a film with... I was wondering how come nobody was clapping for Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. But, this was a story about three men, about them trying to negotiate life. You had strong female characters in it. It wasn't really the in-your-face, brash celebration of masculinity, which a lot of films these days are doing. Those big budget films which which just display brute force. And it's more about story, it's about the vulnerable side of a man. Do you think women get that nuance better?
Um, I'd say yes and no. It depends on who the writer is. I don't think it's one or the other, that women can write men better or women can write women better. I honestly feel it's a writer's job to write well.
Right, well.
You know, that's a writer's job. And when the writing is not good, the quality of the writing is not good. I don't think it's because of who's written it. You know, so it's like I said, it's really about taking the time and being nuanced, like you're saying in your writing, because nothing is black and white. You know, and of course there is, I mean, what you're talking about, this kind of alpha male that you see on screen, that's kind of a character that's created for just mass entertainment and mass consumption. You know, it's like semi-superhero without wearing a cape or having a logo on the chest. You know, that's what it is. So, I mean, enjoy it if you do, you know, for that. I don't think you should take it more seriously than that. But there are certain films that should be taken more seriously. You know, the ones that are written nicely and the ones that are directed and performed with sensitivity. And those are the ones we should focus on.
Yeah. Haniji, I want to get you into this conversation. What do you make of the kind of films that are being written now? How do you feel about it? Anything in particular that you enjoyed watching?
Anything in particular that I enjoy watching my children's movies?
Which
Very
one's your
much.
favorite? Which one's your favorite?
There are so many. Dil Chahta Hai.
Ah,
I love Luck by Chance.
yeah.
So, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara
Yeah.
also. Laksh. So I love, I mean, I'm being very mean, but I love my children's movies.
No, you're not being. Everybody
I love
loves it.
Sanjay
You're not.
Leela.
She's saying this without any bias whatsoever. It's based completely on the quality of the work.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I do enjoy those movies.
And what do you make of the kind of films that are being made right now? What do you make of the female characters in particular?
I think they're definitely getting better. I would say that, but
But you want to, is there something that you'd want to reveal from this stage? Are you writing anything
no,
that?
not writing any films right now.
Okay,
I'm not.
okay.
I'm working on a novel. I'm
Oh,
working
that's
on
brilliant.
some web series. Thank you. Thank you. That's
You're working on a novel and then wishing that somebody would want to make a film
yes.
on
why
it?
not?
Do you think
Spare
that?
him. Spare him.
Right. So we're going to eventually open this up to the audience, but till such time, I of course have them to myself. And Shibani, I want to get you into the conversation now. As you know, the point that Farhan made about a writer being able to write well, it's irrespective of your gender. But as actors, do you sometimes feel that it's so difficult to break the cast? Because if you're perceived in a particular way, then only certain type of roles will come to you, and it's very difficult for people to unsee what you've already done. Do you feel that sometimes?
Absolutely, and I think that that's been amplified by social media, because what people see of you on Instagram is what they think you are, and then they think that that's what you would be good for. So it's very difficult to break that mold. And I think it becomes hard from a casting perspective because you're not really thinking about what can this artist as a performer do, what part can they play, what value can they add. And there I feel like we're a little bit restricted because then you're not really thinking about them as artists and their ability as actors, right? You see an image, you see a video, and you think, well, I mean, the amount of times that I've been called to play an NRI girl, shocking. You know, that's what I am.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult to kind of break that mold.
You know, yesterday we had a session with Alankrita Srivastav, another brilliant filmmaker, and the name of the session was Female Cinematic Universe. And we were, you know, it had all kinds of Marvel feels to it, and we wanted to convey that, the fact that, you know, every time we have a story that's about a woman, about a female character, you'll have somebody somewhere saying, oh, these feminist types, I tell you. That's all they're obsessed with. And they just want to, I mean, you know, this is not going to work, and theek hai, isko streaming mein dal do. Do you think that is happening, that for those mainstream alpha male characters, we want, even as film critics, we say, go watch it on the big screen, what an experience. And for the more nuanced stories, we say, yeah, this is great for streaming, it's very safe. We don't know if that'll pull the audiences in. Because as much as writing for films is a creative process, it's also a business. Does that weigh on your mind?
I mean, it is something you have to consider, but again, it has nothing to do with whether the lead in your film is a female lead or a male lead. That completely depends on the nature of the content. Viewing, I mean, especially the pandemic, I think has accelerated it even more, where people have gotten comfortable with staying home and watching certain kind of content at home. Going to the theater is by no means a cheap outing. You know, it takes, you need money to go out, you need money, you want to buy stuff at the canteen there, and a family of 4, sometimes 8, 12. Because when you think of what all people can do when they go out in the evening, there's very few choices that we have actually if you think about it. You can go to a restaurant, you can go to a film, if there's some very particular event going on at a certain time, maybe you could attend it, but generally, like on a weekend, there's not really that much to do. So going to a theater is really a part of our culture. It is something that we like doing, but it has become expensive to do. And that, I think, somehow has also made people wary about what they want to go and see and spend their money on, which is totally understandable. And for the rest, they'll wait for it to come onto some streaming service and watch it when it comes. So it actually is the challenge now of the producer. How do I excite an audience to want to go to a theater to watch a movie? It's not easy. I mean, there was a time where, a middle of the road film, would still get an audience to come and kind of see it. Now you really, really need to excite them. And audiences, fortunately, have become very, very smart. They know what they want to spend their money on for a big screen experience, and what they'd rather wait for. And more power to them. The more choice they have, the better it is for them. We are no one to complain as long as they're watching it and they enjoy what they watch. I think that's what's important.
Haniji, have the conversations changed? Because when you wrote the kind of stories that you did, and you said, I got a lot of support from directors who would respect writers and who would encourage us to push the envelope. Were there times when you were told to kind of rein in a little and say, nahi, ye hazam nahi hoga, people won't be able to digest it?
ऐसा हुआ है बहुत बार, और ऐसे ये भी हुआ है कि मेरी स्क्रिप्ट पे काफ़ी changes हुए हैं बाद में, which I didn't know of.
Oh,
So when I saw it, I got my name removed from there.
right.
This happens, definitely.
And would that make you angry? How would you respond to something like that?
I mean, of course, it upsets you, but like in those days, we didn't even have contracts.
Yeah.
जो अब होते हैं. तो वो तो दोस्ती यारी में, कभी वो नहीं होते, contracts नहीं होते, ये नहीं होते.
Yeah.
So you can't say anything. So the best thing to do is just withdraw. I do not wish to give my name on this. Please withdraw my name. So a few films which I had written, I have withdrawn my name. But now I become very
Of course.
thanks to Excel and Tiger Baby. Now you have a contract and you have so you know what you're getting into.
Okay, I need you guys to tell me, do you have your questions ready, or can I start with mine? Oh, we have hands up. So should I open it up to the audience?
But can I ask you what you mean by can you start with your questions? What was happening all this while?
What? No, with your questions, with their
Acha,
questions.
their questions.
No,
Sorry, I misunderstood.
I will continue. I'm just sharing
This
my
was
time
just a
with
warm
them.
up. Now we'll get into the interview.
No, because the number of people who've come in, I'm sure they come in armed with questions and with things they want to tell you. So can we have a mic reach this gentleman? Yes, sir.
Hello, hi, I'm Suhas. Nice to meet you. First of all, I think ma'am and sir, you're absolutely brilliant storytellers, and I've really, really loved your stories and things you've been doing for all these years. Really, really enjoy watching them. My question to both of you is, both of you have been both actors and writers, and all of these are critical aspects of filmmaking and storytelling, right? So how does it feel to transition from one aspect of this to the other? Like the thought process behind being and the actor side of you versus the writer side of you. Like both are very important to work in tandem for very, very really, really nice output of the film, right? So since both of you have done both of those aspects, how does that feel, and what is that? Is there a switch you put on? Is there a actor Farhan mode and a writer Farhan mode that jumps in?
When I used to act, I was very small. So whatever my director or my co-actors taught me, I did that. And later on, I realized that this is not what I want to do. So I stopped acting. And when I got into writing, like I said earlier, I myself wasn't very sure that I could write. But then it happened. And I'm really enjoying this much more than what I did there.
I think the similarity between writing and acting is that when you're writing, you actually play all the characters in your head, right? And when you're acting, you play just one. But it's about playing characters. So on that level, actually, writing and acting are more similar than directing and acting or directing and writing. Like directing is more a job of organizing, convincing people to believe in you, and do what you're on some level hoping as your vision. They should align to it. So it's more about communicating with other people. Writing, I think, is more an internal dialogue, and so is acting actually. So I find the two of them actually more similar than directing as well.
You have a mic, ma'am? Yes.
Good morning, sir. First of all, this feels so unreal. Like, I wouldn't call myself a fan because I've befriended you mentally. Like, to me, you are a friend. And I'm
Okay.
just
You're her
so
best friend,
overwhelmed.
okay?
I'm so overwhelmed. So,
I love this.
my question to you.
So you are my Palvati.
Yes. So my name is Vajrashri, and I've been writing for like 4 years now. But my question to you is, how do you deal with a creative block or writer's block? So for me, I feel somehow my poetry has lost that magic that I had initially, or I just feel like there's this, I'm going through a phase where I'm not at my creative best. There is no flow that I had. So how do you deal with your, creative low points?
The thing that I do, I'm sure different people deal with it differently. The thing that I do is I try my best not to force it. I just let it be. And maybe involve myself in doing something else entirely. Have another kind of experience. Don't think about the fact that I'm not being able to write, or, just live with that day in and day out. I think if you just go off, do something else, travel, I don't know, go watch your favorite band somewhere, just have another experience altogether. It does in its own way inspire you to start doing something again. That's one. And the second thing is, strangely enough, I also need a certain, especially when it comes to poetry, I need some conflict as fuel. It's very difficult to write when you're happy. Because I feel people who write happy songs and happy poems, I have serious admiration for them, because I don't know why they take the time to write a poem when they're feeling happy. So to be able to do that then is absolutely amazing. But so a little bit of conflict, I think, is needed. So maybe you can go look for some conflict. That'll inspire you.
Haniji, what's your writing process? You told me you wake up early. Is that when you think
I wake
the
up very
best
early
and
and start writing. And anything can actually trigger it off for me. Like hearing somebody's conversation, talking about something, reading some news in the paper. Like Kya Kehna was actually a piece of news which I had read.
right?
So that became a thing for me to write this subject.
And have you ever faced the writer's block? What do I do? How do I?
I think I'm always in that block. It's really like I'm about to start writing. No, I haven't. But sometimes I do. You can't think of something, you can't move to another scene. I just let it be. I start doing something else. I start watching a movie or something.
And then the
and then
idea
it comes.
triggers. Okay, do we know who has the mic?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Hi, ma'am. Here. Sir, what do you think about abstract art, like in fine arts? I know it's not related to exactly what we are talking about, maybe directly, but you like realism more or abstract work? And also, I gifted you a sketch right now. So, did you like it? What do you think about that?
That's the reason you're asking me.
That's a good way to put him on the
So-
spot.
Yeah.
Tell me, did you like it?
No, so first you have to remember it was realism. I like realism. I do. Impressionism, modern impressionism, I absolutely love.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
can we have...
Yes, and thank you for the sketch.
Hi.
Take two. Thank you for the sketch.
What a brilliant take. God. But sir, I admire you. So he's ready with the camera to record this. Not bad. Okay.
Hi. So this is, first of all, thank you for coming here all the way. And like offbeat writing, like a lot of writing which is not actually very cinema worthy. Like even Sky is Pink when it came out, a lot of people, like if I don't know if they would have watched in the cinema, but it came in the OTT platform and people really watched it. There was a separate kind of fan base. And even Dil Dhadakne though, even in like traditional patriarchal family, you'd be like, what shit is this? They will never watch it. So how is this, sorry for the language.
It's okay. We're used to it.
Straight from the heart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't watch it with
I think you should write poems.
I do. So yeah, so I do, and then I relate with her, that conflict. So that's why I'm here all the way from Madhya Pradesh to get that conflict and then to write it. So yeah, so like, so good writing, like because you guys write and do films, and is the Bollywood changing, like better storylines and not just, you know, action and fighting and all that. How is this change happening?
Right. No, see, the thing is that Bollywood, any art form will keep changing. You know, I mean, films that were made in the 50s, it changed. When the 60s films came along, a different kind of a leading man or a leading woman. The 70s, the angry young man came about. The 80s were like really the dregs of angry young men hanging around for the longest time. You know, that was then broken by this kind of burst of freshness with Amir and Juhi Chawla and Qayamat Se Qayamat Tak. You know, and everyone kind of fell in love with romance all over again. So this cycle just continues, you know, but what is, and at the same time then, because we didn't have any other outlet apart from going to a theater to watch a film, films that were produced by NFDC, you know, by Films Division, they were considered and called this strange word called parallel cinema for some strange reason, which were films that were more rooted in reality. You know, and over time, I feel both of them have started like kind of now working together. There's no difference between what is parallel and what is mainstream. You know, we now judge films on whether they're good or they're not.
Of it.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, we're sitting here with my mother, and I think a huge amount of this, I mean, when we speak about films like Lamhe, when we speak about films like Aina, you know, those are important films because they brought risque subjects at that time into mainstream. You know, so it has been an ongoing change, and we'll keep seeing it evolving further and further. It's never going to be constant.
True. Yeah, that is one request, because I think the generation of people watching media and mainstream content, like you said, is changing. So if you're writing more, bring such realistic aspect, like ma'am's stories and ma'am's film work. It's more real, and people watch it for that. So please do make ahead.
Thank you very much.
Okay, can we have the mic this side, because we have lots of enthusiastic
I just
people
have
with
one
their hands
short
up.
question from this side. Hi.
Okay.
Hi. I'll also record the session. I got a very good idea about it, that I'll ask the question and record it as well. Hi, so my name is Devika, and I'm coming all the way from Delhi to attend this. Very quick question. What are the 3 tips Farhan would give as a director and a writer to the other directors to make their films interesting so that people can actually walk into the theaters instead of watching films on the OTT? Another question is to Hani ma'am. Do you feel that writing gives a sense of empowerment to the women? Because you used to write films, now you're writing short stories from inspiration from your grandchildren and all. So does that inspiration also unfolds and gives you empowerment and makes you feel a lot more powerful that yes, you're expanding yourself in terms of writing? And another question to ma'am, do you think that adding glamour factor to the movies is very important to make a story powerful?
Wow, 3 questions. I think you should start, Haniji.
As far as empowerment is concerned, I don't think it empowers me to write stories like that. It doesn't. I think it just comes very naturally to me because that's the kind of person I am. I stand for what I believe in. And secondly, I right now I'm like I said, I'm not really writing any films right now. But given a chance, yes, I would again write stories like that, which I feel that people would not like to watch. I would like to write something like that.
Exactly.
Definitely.
How cool is that?
Great one, ma'am. Well, I think that glamour adds a certain flair, and I think it's fun, and I think it's nice to see on screen. But I think it's become a bit more deeper than that lately. You know, I think people are looking for substance. I think the platform has opened up the opportunity for us to see men and women in a more realistic way. And it's more about character, it's more about emotion, it's more about substance. So while I think that it's nice to have a balance of both, I think we've reached a really good place where we can actually strip back and not just see women, especially women, in a certain way. You want to have a sense of realism. You want to know that there are characters on the screen that you can actually relate to, that look like you, that share the same emotions as you. And that's what's really important. The rest of the stuff is just fun. Great. Thank you, ma'am.
Right. Before I answer, I'd like to also just say that Shibani is also now joining the long list of creators and writers in the family. She's doing a show she's created called Dabba Cartel,
Oh, congratulations.
which is about 5 women living in a little colony outside Mumbai. I won't share more than that right now, but it's about their lives and how they go on to form a cartel. And it'll be on Netflix, and that's her first show as creator, which will be out next year.
That is brilliant.
And to answer your question, what are the tips I can give anyone about how to get audiences into a theater? I honestly can't. Because if I knew that, then people would be flocking to see all my films in the theater all the time. So there honestly is no formula. There is no kind of short way of being able to do it. There is something at any given point in time that piques the majority people's interest. You cannot predict it because not only is storytelling changing, technology changing, the country is changing, the mood of the people is changing. They now may not want to see the kind of film you thought was very exciting a year and a half ago when you started making it. So it's not only about what you make. Many factors come into play to excite people to go into a theater. What seems to be the mood right now is people want to go and see this larger than life, big ticket, VFX, big action kind of thing. It's having its time now. Again, it's cyclical. We'll see something else come along. But it's very, very difficult to say what that will be. What we can do as creators and as artists, the only thing we can do is remain true to ourselves and not pander. That's the only thing that we can do, and that's what I hope to keep doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being so honest. Thank
Hi
you.
everybody. Honey ma'am, Lucknow se salam aapko. Yeah, Farhan sir, I'm sure with the kind of thundering applause that you're getting, you know people are going weak in knees. But there are 2 edge which make me go weak in knees about you. One is your humor, another is your husky voice.
I've very rarely seen so many people sitting down going weak in the knees.
I was actually all down everywhere here, right? You have done, when you've done, you know, with all the movies with 3 friends, you've never thought about South. I guess humor in South is really good. So make some movie in South and take characters.
I would love to, but you all have your own industry, your own directors, your own actors. Doing amazingly well for yourselves. We've just done a film recently with Yash, the amazing Yash.
Yes.
So, to me, it's amazing that there are robust industries all across India, and I feel that that speaks volumes about how entertainment in this country is growing and how it's getting more and more fame globally. So would we like to collaborate more? 100%. But it's not about me coming and making a movie in the South. You already have people who understand the culture way better than me. I would love to collaborate with them and help them tell their stories if that can happen. And and vice versa. Whenever they want to come, our doors are always open.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank
We
you.
have a few weak in the knee people here, and we must give them a chance to ask questions.
Hi, Farhan. Um, I love the comment you made that the audience has become very smart. And you were referring to the decision which people make whether to watch a movie on OTT or go to the theaters. I call this as a digitalization of movie watching. So my question is, do you see this as some kind of a changing era and a shift? And what do you think goes into the planning of a movie in order to cater to the digital audience and the shift, the kind of shift that people are going through?
You know, the quality of writing is more important when you're consuming something digitally than you are when you're in a theater. Not that I'm saying it should not be good in a theater, so please don't get me wrong. But the fact is, when you've gone to a theater, you have committed yourself for those 2 hours or 2.5 hours. You've bought a ticket. Even if you don't like something, you're like, okay, cool, now I'm here, I'll sit and I'll watch it. But on digital, all you have to do is press one button and it's gone. You know, you don't have to be loyal to that content. Nobody is going to see you get up from your seat and walk out. You know, it's not going to happen. So it's not as merciful, you know what I mean, as theater can be. And that encourages people to write better. You know, television has always been the writer's medium. You know, film was the directors and stage was the actors. And we are seeing that play out in the largest possible way right now. And it will create its own heroes. It will create its own blockbusters in its own kind of way. And that's bound to happen.
Thank you.
Guys, we've completely run out of time. We have time for 2 more questions. One from here. Can we have the mic here, the gentleman at the front? And then Shantanu will get a chance to ask his question.
So as very successful artists, how do you all deal with criticism and failure? So anything honestly that you could share, please.
That's a great
Very
question.
badly. Hate it. But, I mean, it's most welcome. You don't have to believe in everything that they say. But, yeah, it also helps you to correct yourself and your mistakes. Definitely helps.
Farhan? Okay, so Shantanu, now it's over to you. Okay. One question to you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So first, I'd like to say your poetry from the movie is something that I listen to regularly when I'm low or anything. So thank you for that. My question is, earlier you had told about how, as a writer, you're kind of thinking from all the characters, like you're thinking of all the characters, and as an actor, you're only thinking of one. So is it difficult when you write something and when you are, say, acting in the same movie or seeing it being acted by someone else, is it kind of difficult because everybody brings in their own style when they're acting? So that letting go of control kind of because you wrote it, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, Mom, actually, do you want to answer that? Because that's an interesting question for you as a writer. What you write, what you imagined as the performance, what it becomes on screen.
It does make a lot of difference because when you're writing, like when I'm writing a character, I start living it also. That this character, and then you carry that character on, and there is another character who comes in. You know, you're playing different parts. And many a times it happens, especially when I'm writing, is that, like if there is a lawyer, and after this, you know, you've taken a few scenes ahead and you feel you don't need this lawyer. It doesn't have to be there. So the poor lawyer is gone. Somebody else has taken its place. Maybe a doctor now, and then after some time you feel...
Basically, the amount of careers that a writer has finished before they even began.
Yeah, that happens. But now, they are more into acting and all that. So for them, it must be a totally different...
Yeah, I completely agree actually with what she said. I mean, of course you have your own imagination. You also have your own imagination of what the room is going to look like. You know, and then when the director comes in and the production designer comes in, it can be a completely different room. You have an idea of what a location will be like, where a scene will play out, but by the time it comes onto screen, it's a completely different location. And then the film is remade again when it's edited. You know, so it changes a lot. But in the process of writing, just purely speaking about that, you know, you are playing each and every part. I mean, you're playing the hero, you're playing the villain, you're playing the comedian, you're playing the best friend, you're playing the dog, you know, you're playing everything. You know, so and you have to like kind of think of every scene from their point of view for it to be like yeah, they're not just like some fly on the wall hanging around and just in the scene because the director didn't know what else to do with them, you know?
Right. The final question to Shantanu.
Hani ma'am, bringing the conversation back to the book, and it's a book that's addressed to children. And children's writing or children's cinema in this country is in a very poor state. We don't have too many books that are addressed to children. Do you think yourself investing more time in building a series out of this, or writing for children, and making films for children tangentially, Farhan also? But ma'am first.
Yeah, I would love to write for children. I would like to write more books.
Do you think it has the potential to sort of break through? Why don't we have too much writing for children in cinema also?
I guess the thing is that economics comes into it, that how much money you're spending, whether that money is going to come back or not. How many people would like to go and watch a children's movie? These kind of things, I think, also make a lot of difference, making it difficult for making films for children. You know, that's what I believe in. That's why there are not so many children films coming out. But I guess Farhan would be better to answer this because I have no idea.
No, I think, Mom, you should just continue this book, the series for sure. There are many more birds you can write. After Grouchy Owl, Stubborn Sparrow, Papi Pigeon. We didn't have Grouchy Owls when we were kids. They only came at social media time. No, but I think there is. Sorry, I would slightly disagree. I think that there is a huge market for a good children's film that hasn't really kind of been really done well. The kids here watch the Marvel movies. You know, they watch all these films. They are not getting that level of content or that level of engagement because, see, Marvel, I mean, as spectacular as they may be visually, they've got some incredible messaging in there, you know, for kids to take back home. And that is something that I feel is still work in progress as far as our filmmaking goes. But there is room for it, for sure.
So I'll send you the contract for the series, next in the series for this.
Deals are being made on this stage. But guys, thank you for being an amazing audience.